Good morning, Jason. How corrupt is Peru? To what the? I'd love your opinion. Posted a video about it, sort of, this morning. Yeah, it's getting suppressed, so it's not the greatest thing in the world. Sort of, but really, it was more about like it touches a lot on the corruption. But it also touches on just how hypocritical Congress and Fujimoristas are. And Yeah, that's largely what it does. Here. Just now, I published an opinion piece to Pensante Peru, to the website. It is titled "The Fujimori's Complaint of Communist Protesters," and I'm going to read it to you. Fujimoristas and members of Congress within Peru have been strongly voicing their opinion that protesters around the country are simply communist. While it is undoubtedly true that many people in Peru cannot define communism or describe its elements, this is strikingly hypocritical at an APEC summit that includes socialist and communist governments as well as authoritarian regimes. No matter how Fujimoristas or Congresspeople choose to define communism or socialism, they are patently ignorant in their expression. It is common in Peru for communism and socialism not to be defined by their actual economic or sociological definitions, but by power structure. The belief among many is that any government which uses state power for control is communist regardless of socioeconomic policies. When examining those countries attending APEC, Fujimoristas and Congresspeople could find many examples that would meet their definition of communism or socialism in some way. Brunei is led by a sultan who personally appoints all political members of the legislative body, which only serves to advise the sultan. It is authoritarian by nature. Hong Kong is a protectorate of China, a hyper-capitalist enclave overseen by the People's Communist Party of China. It is authoritarian within a party dictatorship. China is led by the People's Communist Party. It is a state capitalist, unitary socialist country. Its economy is largely determined by the state, but has adapted capitalist ideas, although the larger market economy decisions are provided by the state and the Communist Party. It is an authoritarian party dictatorship. Russia provides citizens with the illusion of democracy while largely maintaining uniparty control of the country. The Constitution has been rewritten several times in order to allow President Vladimir Putin to maintain control. It is only in his only break from power, he was replaced by his hand-picked choice in Dmitry Medvedev. Russia is an authoritarian uniparty state. Vietnam is a uniparty Marxist-Leninist socialist republic. It is deeply committed to the principles of socialism, even though the country has trended towards some capitalism in the Chinese model. It is a party dictatorship and therefore authoritarian in its politics. And then there's Peru, providing the illusion of multi-party control and the illusion of competent opposition to the ruling parties, and the illusion of freedom and human rights enshrined in the 1993 Constitution. Freedom of the press is under attack, as is freedom of speech, as described by both the judiciary of Peru and by international organizations. Government security forces are often heavy-handed and oppressive, particularly against those experiencing poverty or those of a perceived lesser class. Peru is controlled by a government based in racism and classism, which seeks to oppress popular dissent. There is a very strong authoritarian bent within Peru, and therefore can hardly be described as a thriving democracy with Western values of freedom. Peru and its government sit atop a fiscal system designed to keep the poor in their place and the wealthy as their overlords. It promotes informality while simultaneously condemning it. The poor in Peru pay a much higher percentage of their income into the tax system because of the consumption-based tax system, while the wealthy abscond with both the mineral wealth and the hard-earned wealth of the country. It is a country which has failed to promote equality and rule of law. Through Congress and the National Police, it has protected corrupt politicians, whether that is Kenji Fujimori and his narco trafficking, or Keiko Fujimori and her money laundering, or Dina Boluarte and her bribery and money laundering, or Alberto Fujimori and his human rights abuses, or Alan Garcia and his embezzlement. Name a political or civic leader in Peru, and you will find a person bathed in corruption, dishonesty, and a lack of personal integrity. This is the system the people of Peru fight against every day. This is the system that people in Puno died to defeat. This is the system that the protesters around the country are trying to defeat through their voice and their supposed constitutional rights as protected under Article 2, Section 12 of the very 1993 Constitution dear leader Fujimori created. Peru is not a country of opportunity and access and freedom for its people. It masquerades as one. Go read it. It's on the website. Just now.
Yeah. That's the article I wrote this morning. I read it out for the video. I didn't touch on everything I wanted to touch on in the article. I didn't touch on everything, but I got to the point. I'm not the type of person who writes to do long articles. I'm the type of person who writes to be very precise and very accurate in what I say. I don't do flowery language too often. I am incredibly disappointed in the media in Peru and in the government of Peru today. I am incredibly disappointed. There are no words that could possibly capture the level of incompetence and indifference that we see right now in the country and in the media. There are no words. I have watched for now the third day as national media has refused to cover Paro Nacional. Refused. Got a little bit of coverage on Wednesday, a little bit, but it got even less coverage than the Sultan of Brunei. The Sultan of Brunei got more coverage in Peru than Paro Nacional. While roads were blockaded, while people took to the streets, while protesters were shot with crowd control rounds in Arequipa, while international bridges were closed in Puno, while highways were closed in the center of the country, there was nothing. There was nothing in national media. Nothing. But they talked about the Sultan of Brunei. Sultan of Brunei, who by definition is an authoritarian leader. I'm not criticizing what he does. I'm not criticizing his decisions. By definition, Sultan of Brunei is an authoritarian leader. And then the Congress members and the political leaders and the civic leaders around Peru criticized the people of Peru as though the people of Peru were oppressing them. And the ignorant Fujimoristas came out of the woodwork and decided that everybody associated with Paro Nacional needed to be criticized. They were all communists. And Congress members joined in calling them all communists. And you are under the impression in Peru that you have more than one political party in charge. You do not. It is an illusion. You have a so-called left-wing party and a so-called right-wing party that are sharing power. Where they should disagree, they blame the people. It's never them. While they encourage corruption, while they promote corruption, while they order security forces to control the people, together they do that. And then they pretend. They pretend like the people have a voice, like it matters, like it says anything. As people are murdered in the street, they tell people there's no security issue. As people are extorted every day, they say there is no security issue. Two days in a row in Chorrillos, 2 days in a row in Callao. People robbed and murdered and left in the street. For the citizens of the country to try to save them. Not Serenazgo, not Policía Nacional, citizens. Citizens tried to save those people. Citizens threw them in cars and drove them to the hospital. Even though they didn't make it, they tried. Citizens tried. While the apparatus of the state, the police, the military, Serenazgo, did nothing. They sat on their hands and did nothing. But it's taught me something. It has taught me a lot. The first thing it taught me is that the people outside of Lima don't just have a limited voice, they have no voice. There is a massive march happening right now in two places, in La Libertad and in Arequipa. Two of them. Does anybody know about them? Arequipa, go watch live videos on TikTok, go watch videos on X. It looks like a parade of civil construction workers. Nothing. National media. La Repubblica doesn't even mention Arequipa. They mentioned La Libertad early this morning, saying there's going to be disruptions. That's the extent of it. For the third day, the people of Puno have the Transoceanic Highway blocked. For the third day, there are multiple blockades of roads in Puno. Where's the coverage? Who's talking to the people of Puno? Nobody. Nobody in the media. What it taught me is that it does not matter if I am in English or in Spanish. It does not matter. It really does not matter. This doesn't get out to enough people. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I understand it doesn't. I'm under no illusion that it doesn't. My personal account has more followers than this account. And I need collaborators. That's what I need. So I can sit here and watch this all day long. I can watch people scuffle with police. Yep. They are showing how they're like the actual screen over there. It looks like, oh my god, like it's sort of supposed to present that like, oh, there were disruptions, and that now everything is calm, everything is great. Lauren, message me after. I'm looking for people or Laurent. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm looking for people around Peru for the most part to just, have a voice about what's going on, where they are. I want to know what's going on all over the place. And I need people who will say what is going on all over the place. Not what the government says is going on all over the place. Not what national media is going to say is going on, which is nothing. They'll say nothing's going on. I need voices. They are seriously oppressing it, Elizabeth. Seriously oppressing it. It is. The hashtags are being suppressed on X. The videos are being suppressed on TikTok. Even the live videos. Right? If I go check the live videos on TikTok, the first video that came up this morning was, look how everything is at Larcomar. When I scroll through, of course, there's like a bunch of lives of first people, like there were people preparing to protest before 7 a.m. this morning in Arequipa. People were going live from Arequipa before 7 a.m. for protests, for the marches. Insecurity, Bianca. A lack of government action to combat insecurity. Day after day after day after day. They put them under a state of emergency because it removes certain constitutional rights. No, insecurity. People being murdered. People being extorted. That's what they're protesting. And the thing is, like I was saying, it's one thing for me to sort of cover what's going on. It's one thing, right? And for me to say, oh, if you Google Peru news, you won't see it. You have to read it in Spanish if it does exist. And the murders do tend to make the news. So you will see like the news in Spanish of the murders. You will not see it in English. Bianca, I am the largest English language news producer in Peru right now. And on YouTube, yeah, not quite. I don't think that's quite what we need. Don't need a strong dictator. Oh, it's safe if you're Blanco. It's safe if you have money and you're in certain neighborhoods. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You can go to Miraflores and hang out at Larcomar. Or walk the Melancon. You can go to Cusco and go to the tourist sites in Cusco. You can hang out with all the gringos in Cusco. That's fine. You'll be safe. For the people of Peru who live here and aren't entitled to all sorts of white privilege and financial privilege and all of those things, it's not safe for them. It's not. And you ask a lot of people in Lima, they don't come from Lima. Like their families aren't from Lima, a lot of people. They come from the provinces, right? Or they come from like a neighboring city or something, and they've all sort of like, if they, especially those who manage to succeed, they centralize in Peru. Or in Lima, sorry. They centralize in Lima. And but they have to hear from family members that are still in these other places, like in the provinces, or even in neighboring cities, about just how bad it is. Right? Like, you have to talk to those people. Right? Nobody in Lima knows what is going on in La Libertad. They have no idea. None whatsoever. It's not that the government necessarily is causing the unrest. They're doing nothing to combat the criminality. They have passed laws. They have changed laws that tend to favor organized crime, the formation of organized crime, that protect criminals to a greater extent. And then they pass arbitrary other laws that really don't do anything. So, for instance, if you are 16 or 17 in Peru, you can be charged as an adult now, right? Which, like, seems... You can be tried as an adult. That seems like, well, maybe if you have 16 or 17-year-olds who are engaged in extortion, that's sort of a good thing, that you could try them as an adult. Sure. Yeah. Until you realize that those under 25 are more likely to receive a suspended sentence for any crime they do commit, unless that crime is of a certain severity, right? So like armed robbery would be of a certain severity, therefore that person could actually, see prison time. And the thing is, Donnie, I have to spend all day doing this to actually get a good idea of what's going on. A good idea, but I don't know. I just have a good idea of what's going on. Right? Like I can make assumptions based on what I see is going on. Right? I can make assumptions. I can assume that if every single civil construction worker in Arequipa has been striking for 3 days straight, that there's probably a lot of corruption in Arequipa, that there's probably a lot of like that sort of street level extortion and corruption in Arequipa. I can make that assumption, but I don't know. Right? I know how I know in some way how much the people of Puno are hurting as a result of everything Dina Boluarte and her government apparatus has done to them. I know that they are incredibly hurt. Do I see anybody talking to them? No. I see them talking to influencers, the Chinese delegation, business people. What about the people? Where are the people? Where are they? Why aren't you talking to them? Because it's inconvenient to the image, as Dina Boluarte calls journalists image terrorists. The ones that actually do their job. And I'm watching in the last 3 days as all their videos are being suppressed, as all their content is being suppressed, as all their you don't see it. Right? I can scroll videos all goddamn day and maybe get it La Encerrona twice right now. I haven't seen him once. I haven't seen that account once today on TikTok. Not once. And there have been days in the past where I haven't been able to go like more than 3 videos without seeing La Encerrona. I don't even get to see like I haven't even seen Tu Comunicadora Favorita today. And like, she's like the least controversial of all of them. She's not even a journalist. She just like commentates on things that are going on, and like there's like a mild, like she does like it's like a little bit of reporting with some commentation, some commentary, right, where like she'll say like, this happened, this is, and she provide like, it's not like overt opinion, but it's opinion, right, to an extent, right? But she's by far the least controversial. She has her beliefs. She has her viewpoint. But even she's suppressed. If you talk about the news in Peru right now, you don't have a voice. I do it in English, I'm suppressed. Right? Like, it's a struggle to get views, and has been for about a week. Like, leading into APEC and then during APEC, it's been a struggle to get views. The only way I do manage to get any sort of interaction is by doing live broadcasts. It's the only way I get any sort of interaction. Yeah, 5% of the population supports Dina, if that. 5%. So the population does not support Dina. That's my wife. She's pouring coffee. In case, like, it sounds like somebody's peeing. Nobody's peeing. Yeah, there you go. If you were on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, you can see the cup of coffee. But some people support the press and maybe more, but don't say it. No, I don't think it's even more. I don't think it's more. I think Fujimoristas make up about 10% of the population, and then like you have like of them, about half of them support Dina, and that should tell you something though, that if half of Fujimoristas support Dina, it's one party. There's only one party then. They come from parties that should be polar opposites, right? Fuerza Popular and Peru Libre should never agree. It shouldn't happen. Ideologically, it should not happen. But there's one thing that unites them. It's corruption. It's just corruption. As I said in the video I posted, in the article, which is just me reading the article I wrote this morning, it does not matter what the corruption is. The system is designed to protect them. And we can go so deep into it. Both Fuerza Popular and Peru Libre are actively, with the National Police, protecting a fugitive with an international warrant for his arrest. They are actively protecting Vladimir Soto, who has a TikTok account and an X account and posts regularly. And then they pull the, can't find him. Don't know where he is. And then we get conversations between Santibáñez and his chums, his friends, about Saron being protected. And all you get out, once that's found out, all you get is gaslighting. Oh, it's not me. It's not me on the audio. We have your text messages. Oh yeah, but it's not me. It's just made up. It's all fake news. It's fake news. So the government gaslights the population and acts like it's the population that's oppressing the politicians, the leadership of the country. Calls the entire country communist. If the entire country was communist, how the fuck are they in office? Well, I'm good. Do you have a different point of view about policy and society? Who has a different point of view? Congress has a different point of view from the people. Probably because they're classist. Oh, wait. That's the easiest way to explain it. They're classist. And they're corrupt. Yeah, okay, they have a different point of view. Yeah, and their point of view is wrong. Like right now, they're talking about, well, Latina Noticias is talking about how police officers have been injured during APEC. Police officers, the poor police officers. You shot 8 people in Arequipa. But 6 police officers have been injured during the course of protests. You fucking shot people in Arequipa. Yeah, it was with non-lethal rounds. You still shot them. That still hurts like a mother. I don't know if you've seen the videos of guys like unable to walk and being carried away. Yeah, you do, Elizabeth. You do. I know people within government. So, yeah. I have no interest in working in government, nor could I. My Spanish is not nearly good enough. But, yeah. It may shock people to know this, but I know people in Peru. I know people here. It's the thing. I talk to them. I know some very wealthy people in Peru. Not like the Romeros. I don't know the Romeros. We don't go way back. Right? I don't know that level of wealthy in Peru, but wealthy in Peru. Yeah. Yeah, they do think they're above a lot. Yeah. You think they're above a lot of things. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them feel that way. And like, look, I get shit on regularly by the wealthier people for being a lefty. But I didn't grow up like that. You know, I didn't grow like I'm not even saying that they're wealthy comparatively because they aren't. Right? But to how I grew up, right? But it's like because it's different countries, right? I grew up middle to upper middle class in Canada. Right? And that's middle to upper middle class in Canada. Right? Which is like incredibly privileged in a different way, though. You know, people who grew up in the upper class of Peruvian society in the 80s and 90s, that's an entirely different level of privilege that I will never incur and will never, ever experience. Yeah, not USA standard, but world, yes, yeah. And well, like from the world standard, I grew up in the 1% globally. From the world standard, right? Global standard, yeah, top 1%. Canadian standard, no, like probably top 10%, right? But, and I still never ever got that level of privilege that even though my family would have had more money than their family, like across global standards. So globally, wealth-wise, would have been above them, right? In Peru, though, they're the top of the heap, right? They're in the top 5% of the population. They're in the top, in some cases, less than that amount of the population. Not quite one. Like I don't know about like the 1%. They're on the 1% range, but right. Yeah, you need to go by purchasing power parity. Yeah, I agree. To actually get a sense of some sort of equivalence. But yeah, if you grew up in the upper class of Peru in the 80s and 90s, you had an incredible amount of privilege and access, and you still do today. And a lot of that generation that grew up in the 80s and 90s, for the most part, like where they hit their formative years in the 80s and 90s, they don't give a shit about politics in Peru. They don't care about it. They don't. They understand everything is fucked up. They understand society has major issues. But they stay out of politics. And I think the time is passing for them to do that. With the level of extortion that is occurring around the country, with the level of criminality, you're pushing them into a position where they may have no choice but to be involved in politics. They will have no choice but to become politically engaged. And there is a very, very educated class of people in that group who are very capable of running a country properly. And right now they are not politically engaged. I would love if they would become politically engaged. Right? But they're not. And I've talked about them on here and on my personal page in the past, where they stay out of it. Because they don't want to be associated with people like the current politicians that are in Congress and in the executive. They just don't want to be associated with it. They don't want to have their name tied to Dina Boluarte. They don't want to have a picture taken with her. They don't, because they are so frustrated and infuriated by everything that goes on. And I have to talk to them sometimes and hear them say, oh, well, we were thinking about like emigrating to Canada or the US or something, and I'm not talking like just regular normal people either. I'm talking like national directors within the government and the arts, and they were all ready to leave, and some of them did. Well, a fair chunk of them did, and then some, like a few, stayed. And they but they still made that decision to stay out of politics, to not become engaged in politics. And now they get to watch what's happening around them, and like, while they don't like it, they had said for the longest time, we're going to stay out of it. I don't know how much longer they can do that, though. I don't know. Do they sell picarones here? Well, not here, personally. I don't sell picarones. But there's a really good picarones sort of place on the other side of town. Really good. Whenever I go back by there and she's open, there's usually like a line of cars to get picarones. They're that good. Picarones, by the way, are amazing. I love picarones. But it's just me. Maybe. I don't know. But Peruvian donuts, that's correct. That's what they are. They're good, but way too sweet. No. I love that shit. Love those things. They remind me a little bit of beaver tails in Ottawa, which is like, if you know, you know, but if you don't know, you hear they remind me of beaver tails in Ottawa, and you're gonna say, and you hear that and you go, what? What? So put chocolate on your picarones. Don't put like the other syrup. I don't know what the other syrup is. Bro, you live in Lima or where, and since when? I moved to Peru 14 months and 3 days ago. Beaver tails, it's a fried dough. It's a slightly different dough, but it's a fried dough. And how do I see Argentina with Trump simping Malay? Malay's an idiot. The economic news out of Argentina, if you haven't been paying attention, is that monthly inflation came down to 2.7%, I believe. The lowest it's been in 36 months. Big news in Argentina that that's the case. Sounds really good. Except that Malay hasn't taken off the price controls yet, so keep that in mind. What are the best and worst scenarios for Peru following APEC? Look, credit where credit is due. The government did sign some very significant economic agreements, whether it's tourism, the spaceport, whatever they were, like just economic cooperation in general. There were some fairly significant agreements that were signed during APEC. There are some fairly significant economic developments going on around the country right now that I think a lot of people probably aren't aware of. I don't criticize the government for the economic decisions that they take. I don't. I actually think they do a relatively good job when they do make economic decisions. I do live in Peru. I criticize them because they take decisions around the criminal code and around the implementation of the criminal code that are very destructive to the country, and in turn destructive to business interests in Peru. And so with the left hand, they support, and I'm not making the political statement left hand versus right hand, just on the left hand, they make a decision that's good for the economy, and then with the right hand, they support criminality, which then hurts the economy. And they do it because it protects them too. It protects themselves. They protect themselves by doing that. By allowing more criminality, it allows for them to be more corrupt. Right? But I don't criticize hardly ever the overall economic decisions of the country. I don't criticize. I'm not going to criticize the current broadband projects that are taking place in Amazonas and in the Sierra. I am not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to criticize the broadband project for Huánuco. Like, why would I do that? Right? That's a good decision. And it's been working, and everything is going, by all accounts that I've been able to see, very well. Everything's going very well. I don't criticize the creation of the megaport. I don't. I think it's good economically for the country. Are there, of course, going to be problems with it? Yes, there's going to be problems with anything that you do. But overall, it's a good step forward economically and in development for the country. That's a good thing. And when those sorts of decisions are made, yeah, they should get praise. Okay? The spaceport brings in at least $300 million for the development of the spaceport in Piura, right? That's a good thing, right? That's going to create good formal employment in Piura. And if you pay attention, Piura is having issues with water right now. They need to diversify in terms of like where the employment and industry comes from in Piura. They need to, because they're having water issues, right? And so, like, the spaceport's a good thing, right? And when, like, last year, I don't know if they're still doing it because it's been a while, but they were burying a natural gas pipeline all the way down to the Chilean border. That's a good thing. Now, it made driving in Ica a pain in the ass last year, but I mean, that's good development, right? It creates jobs. It creates good jobs. It creates more money overall for the country. That's a good thing. Right? Like, there's good development projects all over Peru that happen all the time, or get signed all the time, or get agreed to all the time. Like, that's all very good. Nobody's criticizing the government that I am aware of for those decisions. It's always, okay, sure, but can you stop people from shooting us and stabbing us? That'd be really nice if you could do that. Can you do both at the same time? It's why I've said, and I said this yesterday in particular, I became a little bit more forceful about it, but like, when APEC is done, you shouldn't stop protesting. Maybe shift it a little bit, right? But don't stop protesting when APEC is completed today. Don't do that. Because all these world leaders, they're going to sign a joint statement and they're going to disappear, and they're not going to think about it again, really, outside of like a few countries. China's going to think about it. The US is going to think about it. And they're going to come up with some sort of conversation that they're going to have with Dina Boluarte. They will do that. But for the most part, the countries that are here for APEC, they're not ever going to think about it again. Right? So keep protesting after APEC. But I will say this: protest until Santa Vanez takes a goddamn hike. Right? That's where I criticize Peru. That's where I criticize the government of Peru. Not economically. People deserve to be safe. And when people aren't safe, you can make all the great economic decisions you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Everything you create with the good economic decisions is destroyed by the bad security decisions. Santibáñez is maybe the worst security decision in the country. He alone is the worst security decision in the country. And he tells journalists that like they're not allowed to criticize him because they don't know anything about security and stuff like that. Okay, well here's the thing, I do. And I'll tell you, he's incompetent. It doesn't take a lot for me to say that. He's incompetent. He doesn't know how to manage a police force. He doesn't know how to manage, certainly like on a national level. He does not know how to manage a police force. He does not operate in a way which indicates to me that he is actually aware of what is going on. And that tells me that you have a failed collection, information collection apparatus for the police. They have no idea what's actually going on the streets. No idea whatsoever. Right. He does not set a standard for the national police to be better and do their jobs properly. He does not set that standard at all. He should not be in the position he's in. He should not. It's not. It's not. And the thing is, people will take that as like, some people will take it from when somebody in the news says anything like that. What's up, Tita? Or somebody who covers the news or talks about the news on a regular basis. When somebody says something like that, a lot of people will. And this happens in Peru. It happens in the United States. It's wherever I talk about news, it's ongoing. A lot of people assume then that you're just like, oh, you just don't like that person. You don't agree with their political ideology, and so that's why you're criticizing them. No, I really don't care. I don't care what your political ideology is. I don't. I care that you do the right thing and you do your job well. I don't care that you're Peru Libre or Fuerza Popular or the Christian Popular Party or whatever the hell you align yourself with. I don't care. Just want the job to be done, right? So it's not even that I don't know Santibáñez personally. He might be a nice person if you were to sit down and have a coffee with him and chat. I don't know, he might be a really cool person to talk to. I have no idea. But I do know he's bad at his job. And since that's my entire relationship with Santibáñez is whether or not he can do his job, he can't do his job, so he shouldn't be doing it. They need to kick Santibáñez to the curb. I mean, realistically, you also need to find a way to kick Dina Boluarte to the curb. Realistically, you need to find a way to take Keiko's tentacles out of Fuerza Popular. Realistically, you need to move on from the Fujimori era. The Fujimoristas need to realize that's an era long past. It's done. It's never happening again. Okay? You need to move on and accept that the country is different now. It's not like it was in the 80s and 90s. We're moving on, okay? This is Peru in 2024. It'll be Peru in 2026 when the election has to happen, so if it's not called sooner, right? this is where we are. It's not the same time. It's not the same era. Let's move on and be a better country and actually deal with the fucking problems that exist instead of rehashing every single thing Fujimori did for the rest of our goddamn lives. Okay? I'm aware of everything Fujimori did. Well, maybe not everything, because, like, he did a lot. But I'm aware of what he did. I'm aware of the things he accomplished, good and very, very, very bad. Right? I'm aware of all of it. Okay? And a lot of people in Peru are aware of a lot of it. I'm surprised by how little inclusive knowledge there is about Fujimori, where you do have that division where if you're a Fujimorista, you only know the good things that Fujimori did. You only know those things. And if you're somebody who really doesn't like Fujimori, you're mostly aware of all the bad things he did, although like you have some knowledge of some of the good things he did. Right, some knowledge, but mostly it's like, do you realize what a bad person he was? That's that perspective. Yeah, I realize, super bad person, super shitty human being with no integrity. Like Fujimori had negative integrity, and I don't even know that's possible. The man resigned by fax from a foreign country. That's a complete lack of integrity.
Apply to be a politician in another country.
Yeah, and while applying to be a senator in that other country. Like, and like, we usually find out how awful things were with him when we learn it in university. That's true. It's not something that's generally covered at like the sort of elementary or high school level for the most part, like maybe a little bit, depending on like what school you go to. But yeah, you're right. It's not covered really in any in-depth sort of way until you get to university, which is weird to me. But I mean, okay, I guess. Like whenever I hear stuff like this, I'm like, I actually have this brief thought in my head that like I could create a really kick-ass school in Peru, like a really kick-ass school, not for English, not just like learn English, but like actually learn about the fucking world.
So you're going to do what the state can provide.
Yeah. And then I'm like, so I have that brief thought in my head of like, you know what? I could really teach a lot of people a lot of stuff about like the world.
Let's create an NGO.
Right? And then I realize, no, I would be shot in the first 6 minutes.
Or a store.
Dina Boluarte herself would come down and shoot me. Stop telling people this stuff.
Yeah, because they want us ignorant.
If you educate them, how am I going to gaslight them? How am I going to take advantage of them? Stop educating the population. They're getting too smart, Blake.
Not necessarily smart. Just informed.
Informed, yeah. That woman doesn't do her own dirty work. Okay, well, fine. She's going to send the Chofre down to assassinate me. Whatever. Somebody in the Chofre. She'll send Vladimir Cerrone down. Somebody with the Chofre. Since that's how you pronounce chauffeur here, I suppose.
Chauffeur.
Yeah. The Chofre. Chauffeur. Whenever it's spelled in the media, it's CHOFRE. you have words for things where I'm like, okay, I can translate that, but I don't know the context of how you guys use it.
If you say it in French, it's still understandable for Spanish speakers.
Chauffeur.
Chauffeur. Yeah. The same rule.
But it's spelled chauffeur.
El cofre.
Cofre.
Yeah,
cofre.
That's the
vehicle. That's the vehicle itself. The cofre.
Nickname.
Yeah, the nickname for the vehicle. Should be the fucking coffin, is what it should be.
No. Coffin is ataúd.
Yeah, but it should be the coffin.
No, because it's not okay to say that they are killing people. Well, actually they do, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we're the worst.
Yeah,
but Watchmen. Look, we are good. They are good news.
Oh, yeah, if you
we
watch...
We are very negative, like.
Yeah, if you watch national media, it's always good news.
We're focusing on the bad.
Nothing ever happens to anybody, guys. Everything is fine.
Really
if you work at the poultry market in Chorrillos, nothing has happened. If you walk around the streets of Callao, or if you operate a taxi in Callao, nothing is happening.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
If it's not in your neighborhood, it's not a problem.
If you operate a small business in Mesa Redonda, nothing is happening. Everything is fine. That's the message from national media. It's the message from the government. Everything is peachy. Which I understand is a very North American saying. But peachy means everything's great. Right? Nothing is happening. That's what the government and the national media will tell you. Nothing is happening. There's no Paro Nacional. There's no strikes.
There's no people dying.
There's no people dying.
There's no extortion.
There's no extortion. There's
no corrupted politicians.
There's no corruption within the government. Everything is great, yo-yo. I don't know what you're hearing, but clearly these aren't good news sources if you're hearing about extortion and murder and corruption. What the hell is this shit? It's not a bad setup. It reminds me of the U.S. Army setup in 2003, 2004. Sorry, I'm looking at the TV. I looked over. Latina Noticias is showing security operations and the military personnel doing security operations for APEC, and they're showing what looks like some sort of coordination van, and it sort of reminds me of the setup I had in 2000. Well, for me, it would have been 2002, 2003 when I was in the U.S. When I was with the U.S. military. I turned on the news this morning, and they wanted to talk about Peru versus Chile. Yes, that's a big deal, Jason. That is a big deal. Dina Boluarte is sort of a puppet. Sort of. But you only really have one political party. It's Peru Popular is the political party you actually have. It is not Peru Libre. It is not Fuerza Popular. It is Peru Popular. they will certainly put expectations on the government if they go ahead with the southern border. They will. That'll be part of the agreement. It'll be written into the agreement. But yeah, Jason, like even for me, I'm sort of excited for Peru versus Chile. Like I'm sort of excited for it. I'm sort of excited for it because like Chile, that's why.
Don't feel like that. It's not okay. But do it again. It's funny. Do it again. It's funny.
No. Yeah. Yes. Chile.
Oh my god.
Is Trump going
Your
to push the button?
integration to Peruvian culture, popular culture, it's a point, but unfortunately not the best.
I stand in solidarity with the people of Junín. Peru is great, but Chile.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We stand in solidarity with the people of Junín.
Yeah, Micaela, las heroínas Toledo.
Yeah, we stand in solidarity with the people of Heroínas Toledo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Yeah, Trump is not going to push the button, and okay, we can't be dependent on China alone. True, you need to diversify. Agree. We also need U.S. to an extent. I think also you need a little bit of Europe to an extent, but you also need the rest of the Asian tigers to be involved. So you need Japan, you need Malaysia, you need the entirety of the Asian tigers, and if you do that, you'll do fine. But you're right, you can't just have China, you have to expand beyond that.
But in the history of Peru, we have been all the time with the U.S., so this is an addition. Unfortunately, it's not Peruvian that decide.
Can I cross the southern border with an alpaca on my back? Well,
alpaca, I think yes.
Not if it's live. If it is deceased and you are carrying it for the purpose of harvesting the wool, you may have to pay a 14.5% tariff for the wool. I think it's 14.5. Don't quote me on the 14.5, but I'm pretty sure it's like something around that for you to import the alpaca wool. So it depends on the condition of the alpaca. I hope that helps. I don't know if it really does. Okay. If it's a baby alpaca, they're going to turn you away at the border. They're going to say, no, that's a live animal. You can't bring that across. Or they would have to go through quarantine and all those other things. So
if it's my animal for stressful and companionship.
Yeah, but it's still gonna have to go through quarantine.
When you said south, it's from the U.S. to Mexico?
Lots of permits with live animals. Yes, there are a lot of permits with live animals. If you're going to do that, you may want to talk to an import-export company that can assist you with crossing the U.S. southern border with an alpaca. Although, you should also be concerned about crossing the entirety of Mexico with an alpaca. It will look, first of all, very weird. It'll draw attention to you, and that means you have to be very smart about the routes that you take through parts of Mexico because you do not want to run into the cartel.
And he cannot do it animal cruelty or shows, because it's right.
Yeah. Now, if you want to take viscachas, I fully support it.
Also,
people in the U.S. need to be introduced to everything a viscacha is.
South, north. From the south to the north.
But from the south to the north, yeah. So, viscachas, absolutely. Big supporter of the viscacha. It needs to be more famous than it is. It's not even famous in Peru. It should be. So go into Junin or go to the Altiplano and find yourself a viscacha. Okay. It is now 13:04. I'm going to take off and do other things. I'm going to pretend to update you on everything around Peru when it comes to the last day of Paro Nacional, this go around, and APEC. I will try to keep you updated throughout the day, more ongoing on the webpage. You can follow me, of course, on YouTube or on TikTok at Pensante Peru. And if you are interested in collaborating, if you speak English, and particularly if you are outside of Lima, but somewhere in the country, and you would like to share your voice, message me up and we'll figure something out. All right? I will talk to you all at the 6 p.m. live. All right. Bye-bye.